You're listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. Well, Powder Man, it's your boy Al Mega, and welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders podcast. And today, we have a boss in the building. I mean, a big boss. I mean, he's the writer, he's the creator, the man behind Headlocked Comics, all right? But wait a minute. He's apparently also a former DDT pro, Ironman Heavymetalweight champ. But he is also, man, like the king of wrestling comics. Yeah, baby, I done said it, but it's been said before me, so don't be hating on me. I got the man, the myth, the legend himself, Michael Shawn Kingston, baby. What's going on? How you doing?
How you doing? I gotta say, I feel like I've done a lot of interviews, and that was probably the best setup I've ever gotten. So,
thank you. Listen, as a wrestling fan, I know you are. I think you dug that. Listen, I could have said so much more, but I know your time is limited because you got this dope project that's coming up from Massive Publishing. You know, this publisher keeps coming up with some dope books, different concepts, really making comics fun again. Oops, I said something that maybe shouldn't have said, but I'm just saying comic books, folks. Don't get all mad. All right, so definitely bringing the fun back to that and some fun, awesome stories with a mix of everything. And in particular, this one Rockabilly Vampiro Apocalypse, baby. We're gonna get into that in a bit, folks. But before all that, for my fellow Crusaders, let's get into the world of the Kingston world. Let's see what's popping. So, Big Mike, let us know where you OG from, and the most important question that you've ever heard in your life. What is the first thing in fandom that you ever fell in love with?
All right. Well, so I'm from upstate New York. I was born in Syracuse. I live close to Albany now. As far as the first thing I fell in love with, I'd say it would either have to be Flash Gordon or Clash of the Titans. It was one of those two things. Maybe Star Wars. It was
the OG movie, the Black movies.
Yeah, no, the movie.
Okay.
But those were the first things that captivated me.
Excellent. I see him all the time at cons. He still looks great. He still looks like he can still play the part of Flash. So let's go.
Yeah, no, I think everybody wishes they could age like Sam Jones. He's it's amazing. Yeah, I see him all the time. He was over at our San Diego Comic-Con booth this year for a little bit, and yeah, he's a good dude.
Mike, right? They part of the explain. They say black don't crack, but apparently neither does Sam Jones.
Well, I am definitely cracking over here. So
we all are, brother. I mean, life is stressful nowadays, but that's all good because we're talking fun. So, all right, so talk to me, man. So, in your fandom, like, were you a lone wolf? Did you have a tribe of pals that you were, chill with, and enjoy your geekdom? Like, how was that journey as a kid?
For a long time, it was kind of a solo thing. When I like wrestling and comics for most of my life, and even when those things were cool, those things weren't cool. I mean, now it's so totally accepted, and it's not even a thing. But I mean, like back in the day, like if you wore a Hulk Hogan shirt to school, like people would make fun of you, like even when wrestling was like at its hottest. So, I mean, for a long time, it was kind of a solo journey. I think when I got to middle school, I made a couple of friends that liked wrestling. And then, as you get older, like you meet people who like wrestling and comics, and you are like immediately brothers, right? Like I'm very good friends with Shane Helms, the Hurricane, right? And I mean, he's a famous wrestler, right? Like, and like I met him at San Diego Comic-Con, and like we were instantly buddies. Like it was just,
really?
Like it's interesting. Like, it's not like that so much anymore, I think, because it's so widely accepted. But I think for a period of time, for people who are wrestling and comic book fans, I feel like when you found somebody, like you had a bond already.
I agree 100. As a New Yorker, I have my tribe, and we were all fans of everything: the comics, the wrestling, the music, the karate films, the manga films that were coming out, the anime films that were coming out at the time, because it wasn't really TV series; it was the films, Like the Fist or Star, Akira, all that good stuff that we were watching at that time. Vampire Hunter D, you get it, bro. Like, Mike is like, here, you getting them eggs at the cons. Like, well, good old days, Mike. So how did you then develop though your fandom, if you will, into something that became more of a passion, if you will, and a creative journey? Like, when did that all start coming about?
So I'd say somewhere in the mid 2000s. I like I said, I love wrestling comics my whole life, and I would buy every wrestling comic that came out, and I just felt like all.
Who was your man? Who was your hero in all of wrestling? If you could say,
it's tough. I think it transitioned over the years, and it's hard now to say anything just because I'm friends with so many people personally. I mean, I think the guy that got me to watch wrestling was George the Animal Steel. Like, that was the guy that made me stop changing channels. That was the very first Saturday Night's Main Event, and it was Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, George the Animal Steel against Barry Windham, Mike Rotunda, and Ricky Steamboat. And I'm just, I've always been a late night person my whole life. I've worked nights my whole life, flipping channels, and there I see George the Animal Steel, and I'd never seen anything like it. He was just going crazy. He's got hair all over his body, his big fat roll on his neck, and whatever. I mean, little did I know it was a look into my future, apparently, but it's
do you ever hear you back like that, Mike? Is that what's going on? Is that
what but yeah, so it was that was it. Like, that was what hooked me, and then I probably watched wrestling every day of my life ever since. For comics, I knew all the characters, right? Like, because like everything was merchandised. I had this old maid game when I was a kid. It was a superhero, Marvel superhero old maid game where, like, you couldn't. Doctor Doom was the old maid, and like that was like my first like introduction to like some of the more, like everybody kind of knows Captain America and Spider-Man or whatever, but like that was like my first introduction to like Doctor Strange and Silver Surfer and Ghost Rider and stuff like that.
The ABCs of comic book characters who do things like that. Like, Marvel and DC to me are the ABCs of Marvel characters, of comic book characters. Yeah. And that's the thing the kids got to recognize, and then you teach them all the indies.
And that was it. And I knew the characters, I knew superheroes. They had those Marvel cartoons, those old ones that were, when Captain America throws his mighty shield and all that. And then I remember one day being at a grocery store, and there was it was Spider-Man 187. I got it up here, so it's the first comic book I ever bought. I still have it.
Me too. You see, New Yorkers, what is this a thing that we do? I got my very first on the wall too, in a frame.
But it was Captain America and Spider-Man fighting on the cover, and in my mind, like as a kid, like I knew they were both good guys, and I was like, "Yo, I got to see what's going on in this." So I got my mom to buy it for me. And then, I would randomly grab comics at the grocery store. Like they had, the Star Wars comics and some other stuff. And then one day my mom took me to my first like proper comic book store, because when she worked down in the city, and like, well, not in the city, but downtown Syracuse. And there was a comic book store near where she worked. So she brought me there. And I just remember walking in and like, like the sky opened up and the birds were singing and you were like, oh.
You're like, what is going on here? I'm amongst the gods.
And then I started buying a lot of different titles. And then the thing that stuck with me the most was X-Men, Claremont X-Men.
That's always everybody's first in New York too. I think there's something about that particular era of X-Men that justice. It was pardon this pun that's very used nowadays, and I'm not part of that side, but you're saying either side, but it's very electric stuff going on back then.
Yeah. And then and then when I went to college, I stopped collecting just because it was difficult. And then when I came back from college, I decided I was walking through a mall, and I saw there was a comic store, and I saw an X-Men. So when I stopped, it's funny too because I stopped collecting at 210, X-Men 210, and then I think 211, 212 were the Sabretooth issues that ended up becoming very expensive to try to fill in my collection. But I think they were like 292, or it was Colossus and Juggernaut fighting in a sewer. And I was like, man, I wonder what. So I just picked one up out of nostalgia, and then I was like, well, now I guess I got to fill all the holes in my collection. And then
Yeah,
I just got into it like hard, and I just I never recovered, I guess.
that's all right. So how did you turn that fandom into being a creative then? Like what happened? What sparked the creativity? You said I could do this.
So I bought all the wrestling comics. I felt like they always sucked. I never enjoyed any of them. Like you
Any
can
of them.
as a fan of anything, I think, when you consume something, I think you can tell when something is made for money and when
Yeah.
something is made out of love, right? Like, I mean, the very clearest example right now that's going on is Deadpool, right? Like that Wolverine Origins Deadpool was awful, and then Ryan Reynolds got to make something out of that he was passionate about, and everybody loves it. So to me, every time I read a wrestling comic, they always kind of felt, dumb or made for money or whatever. So I decided that, I'm like, I think I could make a better wrestling comic than this. So just, I had been a fan forever, but I never really knew how the business worked. I never really paid attention to it. So I wrote a script, I wrote a pitch and a business plan of where you could sell this. And I took it to every, I went to cons and I took it to every comic book publisher, and I was shot down by every comic book publisher. Literally somebody from a large publisher literally laughed in my face.
What era are we talking about?
What's that?
What year was this?
Probably 2008-ish, 7, 8.
All right, so a bit back. All right, okay.
And nobody, everybody was like, "Oh, wrestling comics don't sell. Wrestling fans don't read." I mean, I heard every bit of bullshit. Oh, I heard every bit of bullshit you can imagine. And it's just, but comics, comics fans or at least comics creators were so in the bubble of just the direct market, whatever, and like they just want to hear it. So I decided to do it myself. I funded it myself. And then, I started selling it out of my backpack at wrestling shows and just building like this.
When you say funded, I mean, no crowdfunding, out of pocket.
No.
Yourself, totally
I worked 2 jobs for a year to make enough money to pay for my art, my print run.
Purposely worked the 2 jobs to make this dream come true. Yeah. Yo, champ. Fuck, bro. That's entrepreneurship, dude. Wow.
And then I started going out and selling the books. And the cool thing that happened is like I would see wrestlers at Comic Cons that were there just as fans. And they would come buy my book from me, and they all would message me back and tell me that they loved it. And like I kind of felt like it was a thing. And then one day I sent a cold email to Jerry Lawler, the WWE wrestler who's also an artist, because I knew he did art. Yeah. And like it was such a lark, like I forgot I did it after I did it. And then he messaged me back. And he was like, "Here's my address. Send me some books." And in my brain, it's like a webmaster at this point or whatever. And then he called me up like 2 weeks later, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll totally do it." And so he did the covers for my trades.
Wait. He called you up. How did you believe the conversation? He called you. Did you even know what's going to happen? How does it even work out?
His voice is very distinctive. So like, if there was a way that you could fake it, I would not have believed it. But obviously, we talked for about an hour. It was funny because I was at work at the time. I was managing a warehouse, and I had to go like hide, so I could talk. And we talked. We talked for about an hour, and then he agreed to do my covers. So he was doing he did a cover we did the first 4 issues in floppy, and we put them through Diamond, and they didn't do great. I took. When the first issue came out, I took a week off from work, and I walked to every comic book store in 3 states, and I talked to every shop owner. Every shop owner told me they had multiple customers that they knew of that were wrestling fans, regular customers, and then proceeded to tell me why they would not order this book. Some people said, I only do top 50, or we don't carry indies or whatever.
Why not carry indies? Like any store doesn't support indies, and fuck off, bro. Like that's a shame. One of the biggest parts for me. Let me have my rant for a moment. But LCS is to support indie. That's very important to support your community. You know how many artists on the areas of comic shops that you could help them in their journey. Not that everything's great, but be open. Don't be a dick.
A store in my town told me they wouldn't even carry it on consignment. He said, I don't think anybody would ever read this. And his cashier literally bought one from me in front of him. He goes, yo, I love wrestling. He goes, I'll buy one. And he bought one from me in front of him, and he still wouldn't carry it. So, I mean, I went through a lot of that stuff. I mean, I went through a lot of,
journey.
and it's funny because wrestling has been incredible to me. Wrestlers have been incredible to me. I've collaborated with probably 50 different wrestlers on comic book stories and whatever. But, comics has always been kind of to me. So, it's been tricky. But yeah, so so what happened is then Kickstarter became a thing, and so we put our next book out through Kickstarter, and because even after I had Jerry doing covers, nobody wanted to pick us up.
Wow.
So, and it's interesting because on some level, this all worked out for the best. When you're in it, you can't see it, but it was kind of like the universe giving me what I needed. And when all those people said that, it wasn't necessarily the place for it, they might be right, because, I mean, obviously WWE has got a huge machine or whatever, and they haven't been able to successfully get a wrestling comic to go for more than like 25 issues. So I think that, I don't know, it's one of those things where it forced me to build a stronger thing. So Kickstarter came out, we ran our first Kickstarter, it popped for almost 30 grand.
Oof.
And so then we started I started doing my trades through Kickstarter. I basically adopted a direct-to-consumer model.
I gotta
sell
stop.
the comic book. Yeah.
Let me stop it. Your first was 30 racks? What was your goal on the first overall?
I think 10.
Damn, you hit 30 on your first? Oof.
But we had been basically touring on the first Headlock book for maybe 5 or 6 years at that point. You know what I mean? So I would just go to shows and I would sell out at all my shows. We'd sell all these books and they would kill. So I mean, like we built a fan base. It wasn't like we were cold. And then the people who were just learning about us were buying both books from the Kickstarter and whatever. So it popped good. And then so we've been running, doing Kickstarters to just do direct to trade, direct to consumer. And then the cool thing is all these wrestlers that were doing, that liked my books wanted to make comics too. So then we opened up a sister series called Tales from the Road, which are basically just short comic book stories that I co-create with different wrestlers. They're fictional. Some of them are adapted from real life stuff, but some of them are fictional. Like it's sort of the idea that like if you're on a long car ride and you're just making up stories, like this is the type of thing that we would come up with.
I like an on the road book. Shut the kids up with them in the back seat, give them this book, and that's that. I love it.
Yeah. So I mean, I've collaborated with probably 50 different wrestlers. We just finished one with Claudio Castagnoli. We did one with Trish Stratus recently. Hurricane, Rob Van Dam, Ric Flair, Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, Jay White, Adam Cole, Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, you name it. So we've done like 50 different short stories. We've got 3 trades. Volume 4 will be out later this year. And yeah, so like when I started, I just wanted to make a cool wrestling comic, right? And then now I'm making comics with people I grew up idolizing. So like, like I said, in a way, it's one of those things where like the universe kind of gives you what you need, right? Like I'm so much happier with what Headlocked has become versus what I envisioned for it when it started. Like I just thought I'd make a cool wrestling comic. It would go for a while, whatever. And then maybe I'd write some other stuff. And then it just,
where did Headlock come from though? That name, what made you call, your publishing press Headlock?
I don't know. It was a cool name. It was a cool name. I didn't even I think my letterer actually came up with that.
Okay.
But yeah, so and then so the first story we did was Headlocked, which is a story about a theater major who drops out of college because he falls in love with wrestling kind of unexpectedly. He decides he wants to go to wrestling school, and it's kind of the girl gets off the bus in Hollywood kind of a story where he just sort of up and he moves to Philadelphia to try to become a wrestler, and it's him sort of learning the craft of wrestling and navigating like the seedy underbelly of the business. And then the cool thing about it is almost all the art in the book is done by actual wrestlers. So
cool.
Mikel Molopolo, who is a Samoan wrestler from New Zealand, did the interiors. Jerry did the covers. Jill Thompson did our credit breaks. She is not a wrestler, but she's probably as close as you could get. But yeah, so people liked Headlocked and people like Tales from the Road, and so I've been kind of focused on those things, and now I'm expanding, sort of expanding the brand a little bit, and which leads us to Vampiro. I have three other projects coming out this year that are not Headlocked or Tales from the Road, so or Vampiro.
This guy's murdering the game. Yes. Before we get into Vampiro, baby, I have the trailer up on deck for you guys to check out. So check out the trailer. Then we're going to jump all into what Vampiro is all about. All right. Let me add this to the stage. Let me get us off screen. That way it's not interrupted. Let's go. Man, oh man, Mike, what is this beast of a book? First of all, thank you for allowing me the opt to read that first issue. Yes, folks, I read the first one. Oof, you guys are in for an amazing treat. Like, this is what I was talking about, making comics fun, a cool story, something you could dig into. You actually care about the characters, I think, well written. Like, you actually start digging what the characters about it and really become intrigued as to what the hell is going on. So Mike, give me those early origins, of the story right here.
So, Kevin from Master Republic and I have been friends for a long time. Both hustlers, kind of respect each other. We've shared some space at San Diego Comic-Con, and, we've been kind of looking for the right project to work on together forever. And this was it. And, obviously I've been making comics for almost 15 years now. And, everything I've done has been sort of wrestling oriented. And then, I got he asked me about doing Vampiro. And so I pitched, I've got 15 years of weird stories and ideas, just all this stuff, like, I think as a writer, you look at stuff and you're like, oh, I think about that, and you put it in your head, save for later, whatever. So I just had the opportunity to sort of put every weird and insane idea that I've been saving for years into this first issue. And
is it safe to assume it's an amalgam of all the craziness, and all of a sudden it just formed into this one story?
Yeah. It's been, and it kind of forms over time, right? Like, I had a rough idea, and then you start, and that's my favorite thing about writing is you have an idea and you think you know where it's going to go, and then all of a sudden, like, it goes somewhere else, or you think of something that's even more exciting, or whatever, the characters take the story in a different direction. Like, it's super, super fun. And this is like, I love, like, sort of horror comedy stuff, like Dusk Till Dawn and Evil Dead and Cabin in the Woods and stuff like that. So, when they asked me to make something that wasn't a wrestling comic, like, this was my thought. I sort of conceived, Vampiro has a history in the music business, and they wanted him to have a rockabilly look. And so I'd sort of conceived this idea of Vampiro as this underground guitarist kind of, if you know kind of thing. And, he would just show up and play like dive bars and nightclubs and stuff. And then after the shows, he would go out and hunt monsters of both the human and supernatural variety with his guitar, which converts to a literal axe, which you saw in the trailer. And, just tried to make it, I don't know, try to make it as fun as possible. You had mentioned it earlier about fun in comics, and,
man,
and this is, I don't read, this is going to sound whatever, but like, I don't read a ton of mainstream comics anymore because I just don't find them to be as fun.
They're not written for us. That's all it is at this point in time. We grew up of a different ilk, I think. Time, they wrote a certain way. Now they don't write that way. It's a little bit more different, and it's just not for us.
But I think that people like, obviously when you look at the type of movies that people watch or whatever, like even like the Marvel stuff is very simple. All the Marvel movies are very simple. They're a little humorous or whatever, and people love them. I think, over the years they've catered to a specific fan base, a hardcore fan base. And I see it in wrestling too, right? Like there's people that just want real sort of, because they've seen everything, right? Yes. So they want like some esoteric stuff or whatever. And then it just becomes kind of a snake eating its tail almost. You know what I mean? Like you make stuff for this fan base and then it becomes this fan base. And that's, I think, what you could describe what's happened to comics over the years is, you market it to the people that go to the, just that go to the stores and don't necessarily think about pulling in outside readers.
What's happening with WWE? They're going to go to Netflix and they're going to escalate now, the adultness of what wrestling is. I mean, really taking out the fun, taking out the kids. I mean, we don't need to over-sexualize wrestling, and there's no need for that. And I think really that's kind of the plan behind it, in my opinion.
We'll see. I mean, kids buy a lot of merchandise, so I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I mean, but for me anyway, I just wanted to make something that was fun. I wanted to make like a Saturday night midnight like grindhouse movie, that would be a fun story. And that's, and obviously the best thing about comics is that, the scale that you can tell it on is limitless. And
look at this cover. You want to saw a grindhouse? That first cover, holy fuck, man.
So the amazing thing about this first cover is it's painted by Raphael Galore, who is he's a legend. Like he used to paint fantasy covers, fantasy style, like Frazetta style fantasy covers for Lucha Mags in Mexico back in the day. And now he's older and he doesn't, he hasn't done anything in years. And we got him. So we actually have two sort of old master painters from Lucha painters. We have Galore, who's doing covers, and then Pegaso. And so Galore's doing covers 1 and 2. Pegaso's doing 3 and 4. I think Galore's back on 5. And like it just sets the tone for the whole thing.
It does. That's my favorite out of for real. It just brings me back to a different time.
And that's what you want, right? Like I don't know. Like I just wanted to feel, when I started writing Headlocked, right? Like I sold it at wrestling shows, I sell it at Comic Cons, but I made it accessible for people. It's a story of a theater major who starts wrestling, right? So he's starting from the beginning. So if you don't know about wrestling, you can follow it through, I just when I write, I try to make my stories accessible to everybody, because you never know who's going to read a book. Like the thing that I'm most proud of is, I sell my books outside of traditional channels, but I've been so many people's first comic book. And when you think about it, right, like my first comic book wasn't because of the creators on it. It was because it was Spider-Man and Captain America. You know what I mean? Like most people bought their first, if you bought a Spider-Man book, it wasn't, when you're like 8 years old, you don't care who, Brian Michael Bendis is or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you just buy it because it's Spider-Man. But people bought my book because it was, it was my book. And like, I feel like that is the thing that I'm most proud of. Like for whatever sort of I've gotten from comics, like I've brought a lot of people to comics, and I reach a lot of people who don't traditionally buy comic books. And I think that's, like I said, I just try to make my stuff as accessible and as fun as possible for people. I try not to make them too overwrought, or, to me, if I have to open up a comic and there's an infographic on the first page, like I'm done already. Like, and that, I mean, that stuff infuriates me. And I'm not saying there's not a place for it. I just don't think it should be the norm.
And talk to me about the other two covers. Who did the one that middle one right there on the hilltop right there? They're rocking out, are they? And that axe design, shit, that is so crazy on a guitar. I mean, Mariachi don't got nothing on him, boy.
Yeah. Well, and I was always a fan of that kind of stuff, right? Like, you know, Desperado was a great movie. Like, I love that sort of lone wolf. You know, I like, you know, I grew up as a kid watching, you know, Clint Eastwood movies, High Plains Drifter and stuff like that. And, you know, so like, I love the idea of everything. And it's, you know, so we have a bunch of crazy villains in it. There's a motorcycle gang of nuns. You can see on the cover, the cover for number 2. I think Previews has got it, but Galore painted that too. It looks like it should be like a VHS letterbox. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And
when the story and I kind of, you started introducing more of the verse, man, and showing me more of the craziness. So I thought the way the book was crazy. I said, "Oh my effing god, this is gonna get even wilder now."
Yeah, it's like, I always describe it to people as Preacher meets Cannonball Run. You know, we introduce another sort of unlikely villain. I think coming up, we have a sort of disgraced police officer who is got, you know, drummed out of the force for excessive force, racism, and whatever. And his film school dropout nephew and him make fake monster hunting videos on YouTube now, and they get wrapped up into it. And there's some crazy stuff coming down the road that I can't even spoil, but I think they're in the next arc. But there is some, like I said, I try to make everything as weird as possible. So Vampiro as a person is a weird dude, and I mean that in the best way. Like, he was one of the most famous luchadors in Mexico. He was part of the Misfits for a while. Like, he's got so much sort of personal charisma, right? So it was tricky to try to capture that voice in this book, but like, you know, he's already hit me up for ideas for the next couple of stories and stuff. And he just doesn't think like other people, and I don't think like other people either. So I think, you know, I want to write this series as long as I can. I think the cool thing about Vampiro being a vampire and being immortal is we can take it anywhere, right? Like, this first sort of storyline is 10 issues, but the first issue and the last issue are double sized, so it'll be about 12 issues of content. And then, you know, we can put Vampiro anywhere in time, any era. We can go to the past, we can go to the future. You know, we could do an arc where he hides out in wrestling or something. You know what I mean? Like, we can take him anywhere. So it's and he's got insane ideas. You know, like, he's on like a whole nother level of thinking. So I think the longer that we can write this, the more fun it's going to be.
So what's up with this first arc then? How many issues? Is it a limited? Is it going to be an ongoing? Like, what's the plan with this first?
It's 10 issues. It's double size first, double size last. And then it'll be basically 2 trades worth of stuff.
Nice.
So, and yeah, I mean, we try to do a lot of world building in it and drop some clues and stuff. So, you know, for future arcs and stuff, there's places we want to go. I think there's a lot you can do with it. And I think I'm really excited. I get a little nervous, obviously, because I haven't put stuff through stores in a long time. I wrote some WWE comics for Boom, but those were part of anthologies. Yes. So other than that, I haven't had a book through Diamond in years. So you know, you just, like, I know what I've done, and I feel like what I've done isn't something that very many people in comics have ever done, but I don't necessarily know what kind of cred that gives them with shops. So, you know, I'm hoping they take a look at it. I hope they see the sort of, you know, the promise of the story. I think the covers alone are, you know, the cover alone on volume 1 is worth $5 for a double-sized issue.
I mean, look at those covers. F, yeah, I definitely want that cover. A, holy shit, yes, yes, yes. I mean, they're all gorgeous. No insult to the other artists, but I'm from the old school, man. That reminds me of those Savage Sword days. But I know what you mean. You know what I'm saying? From the '70s, like fuck, bro. This is just. I can't believe you got a legend like that because he definitely still got it.
And that's the feel, right? Like you want it to be like you know what I mean? Like I want it to be like one of those 70s sort of like I said, like one of those grindhouse stories. Like I can just see like if it was a movie poster or like one of those like Burt Reynolds style posters where it's all white and there's just a dude with a shotgun and whatever on it. Like, that's the sort of vibe I wanted for it. But I think for like if anybody was a fan of Dusk Till Dawn, like I think they would love this series.
Oh yeah, agreed. I mean, but horror, wrestling, magic, monsters. I mean, this has it all. It's fun. Music. Shit, I mean, you this one. I mean, look at that axe. I mean, shit, no pun intended. This motherfucker ain't lying. God, look on cover 3. Holy fuck. You see how crazy that weapon looks. Yeah, bro.
And it's tricky too, right? There's comics have existed forever and people just, to come up with an original idea for something like that, that's basically the center of the story is, it wasn't easy, but we got it there.
Yeah, so. You did. I mean, it's the pun because again, right? Some guitarists call their equipment an accent,
right.
And the way you did it here is just on a boss level. I can't wait. And folks, let me put this on screen here because this is important. This is you got to go to your comic shop. Some things are in the way, not right now. Right there we go. Look, so go to your comic shops. You have time, right? That's the order code right there. All right, get it done. It's gonna be in shops October 16th. Look at that, a 48-page, giant size. First issue from Massive Publishing. What? And talk to me. I mean, it's Massive Publishing. It's Mass Republic. What made you decide they were the best brand to fit Vampiro?
Well, so it's actually it's a Mass Republic idea. Like they represent Vampiro and they wanted to do this comic, so they came to me with my history of writing wrestling comics. And gave me sort of free reign to do it. And Massive is Mass Republic's publishing partner, so they're doing the Luchaverse and some other stuff. So this isn't technically in the Luchaverse per se, but it's it's part of the Mass Republic line of comics. So this is one of the first things I've done that's not really necessarily under the Headlocked Comics banner. Outside of the WWE comics for Boom, and I wrote I've done a couple of things here and there for people, but this would probably be the biggest thing that I've written. I've had a bunch of other things, sort of in the woodwork or, in the wind. The pandemic really killed a lot of things that we had going. Ed McGuinness and I were trying to get a Thing wrestling comic going for a long time. But it's tricky. It's tricky.
Goodness, that would have been insane, bro. Stop teasing. Look at this guy. He keeps giving that smile. There you go, buddy. It says, "Congrats, Mike. This looks rad." Hey, this buddy right there in the building. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, everybody check out Corvus too, man. That's another dope book you gotta check out. Check out previous Comic Crusaders podcast. I talked to Buddy, and you can see how dope that book is. But I really am excited about this book. I had the pleasure of reading it again. And thank you for giving me that op. I mean, so what's popping, man? I mean, the con season is slowly coming to, and shit, we're in September already.
My con season never ends.
So
I got 3 cons this month. I got 2 cons in October, 2 cons in November. Maybe I think at least 1 in December. So I do about 25, 30 shows a year.
So where we going next so people could keep up with you, maybe get some books, get something signed, check you out, talk to you? What's going on? What's the next one they could see you at?
This weekend, I will be in BakenCon in North Dakota and Williston, North Dakota. And then I'll be at Madison Comic and Pop Culture Expo in Madison, Wisconsin. I'll be at Baltimore Comic-Con the week after that. Incidentally, my booth is right across from Sam Jones. And then I have a week off, and then I'm a guest at the Bangor Toy and Comic-Con in Bangor, Maine, and then New York Comic-Con.
Oh, bet. I want to see you there, Mike. Yeah,
I've had the only wrestling booth at New York Comic Con for years.
I'm gonna see you.
We'll have Mick Foley there for sure. I think Rikishi's going to be there.
Really? Oh, bro.
We're working on a couple more guests.
Not to me when, but I would love to pass by, see you, get some photos, chat with you.
Yeah, we're on the same spot every year. If you walk in, we're on the left side of the building, all the way against the wall, right on the middle aisle. And it's a great spot.
You hear my loud Puerto Rican accent.
But yeah, I got New York, Twin Cities Comic Con, GalaxyCon, Columbus,
nice.
WrestleCade, and I might pick up a couple more between now and then.
But how do you keep the energy? Just let them youngins out there, those independent creators that talk about, oh yeah, you can't do something. How do you get the energy to do what you do, bro?
Oh, you don't even know the half of it. I work full time on top of all of this.
Oh, folks, you see, no excuse. Give me the magic sauce. Can you share the magic sauce of making the time the way that you have to build what you have? I mean, this is beautiful. I love this, bro.
I love making
shit out of me right now. It's crazy. I love it.
I love making comics, and I've always loved making comics. I love doing shows. I love being amongst my people. And like it's like it's like Avengers, Infinity War, right? There's only one way that it works, right? Like I wasn't going to get support from the comics people or whatever, and like so I had to build it the way I built it, and I've had to drag this uphill my whole life, but I don't feel it, right? Like 6 hours at Thanksgiving with my in-laws, like I feel every minute of that, right? But not like when you're doing something you love, if you really love it, right? Like if you're doing it like for the right reasons. I mean, there's people that think that they're going to get into comics to get rich or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and I've seen a million of those people come and go, or people that think they're going to backdoor their way into movie deals and stuff like that. And, I just want to make comics with my friends, and I want to create with creators I respect, because that's ultimately the best thing, right? Like Billy Zane loves Headlocked. Insane, right? Like I've had a bunch of, David Arquette wrote a forward for me. He's a big fan of my books. Chris Bauer, who's in Heels and he was in The Wire, is Frank Sabaka in The Wire. Like The Wire is my favorite show, and he was my favorite character. And years later, come to find out that he likes my books. He wrote a forward for my last one. I mean, you can't put a price on that.
Yo, Mike, when that Billy Zane was in Rhode Island, my man was looking all dapper in a jacket, an ascot, a hat on a little sideways. You're looking like total Hollywood. Like out of everybody there, I give it a Billy. Yeah. The most dapper dude in the whole place, really repping Hollywood. I was like, all right, Billy still got it, man.
I was a guest at GalaxyCon Raleigh, and he was a guest, and his table was perpendicular to mine. So my booth was going this way, and then his was that way. And he just kept looking at my stuff. And finally, at some point, he just came over during a slow point, started asking me about stuff. And then, he was like super, super into it. He gave me his number. He took a book. He texted me a picture of like him reading it on the plane and stuff. Like he's always been super supportive. He gave me a pull quote for the last Tales from the Road volume. So like, that's cool to like, like people that have done stuff, like creators who've done stuff like that's like, you can't trade that level, especially for me. Like it's always been sort of a fight for respect and belonging, right? I basically had to make this thing myself because, whatever, people didn't want what I had at the table. And so I made my own seat at the table. And so like, it's always been a fight for acceptance. So when like, people who like your stuff, Ross Marquand told me he really liked my books. The bassist for my favorite band is Gaslight Anthem. And the bassist is a big wrestling fan. He's like, I probably read your book like 20 times. And so like, how, you know what I mean? Like you can't trade that for anything. So like, when I tell you the universe gives you what you need, the universe gives you what you need. But like when you're vibing off of that, like you don't get tired, right? Like there's one way it works, and that's it. And that's, and my way is I found the way to make it work. And maybe it'll be something different down the road, but like right now it is what it is. And this is what I got to do to make it happen. So
I guess follow the algorithm of that energy as the things just happen. Just go with it. Go with the flow. Huh?
Yeah.
I dig it. I dig your energy. Yo, bro. what you've done and just on your own, independent, standing the way you are, fuck, bro, boss, much respect. But you deserve shit. I gotta get now. I gotta start thinking about good outros, especially when I have somebody like you. Good shit, bro. You are a boss. All right, not well for real. For folks, this is most important. I've been showing this. My man is everything. He said on everything. All right, every platform you could imagine. All right, it is Headlocked Comic. All right. I have the link below. It's on screen, but you can go click below, all right, in the show notes and just show the love. And of course, show love to the publisher right there, Massive Publishing, and check out the Mass Republic within all that. And it's all good stuff going on. Now, is there any other place, Mike, that we could get stuff? What's going on of Headlock? You have a website? Any place else? What's going on?
Yeah, my website is headlockcomic.com, and we have a big cartel store. We have stuff available there. And that's, some, like stores will order from me directly. So some stores will carry it, but I don't, for the longest time, I didn't put any of my stuff in previews, which I think is going to change because I've got two very big projects that I have yet to announce that are going to probably need wider distribution than just Kickstarter on my website. So I'm going to be doing some stuff on,
Where's the stripper pole, ladies and gentlemen? Where's the stripper pole? Because he is teasing here. He's teasing here. What is going? You better come back when you're able to talk about those, Big Mike. I gotta know what the F is popping, bro. Please, I need to know, fellow New Yorker. Come on, yeah. Come on. You gotta bring it home here. You're teasing me, bro. I hate when you guys do this. So many at the end. So I really bring out that pole. What's missing is the lights and the music. Shit, what's going now, but what a great guest, guys. Please, show the love to amazing independent creators, entrepreneurs like this. You heard what he's done, how he's done it. If that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will, for real, man. Homie getting done it now. He got this beautiful project. Let me show the banner again because you got to get this on order. Go to your favorite LCS today. Let him know that you want this, right? Vampiro, Rockabilly Apocalypse. It's a 48-page first issue. 48 pages, 10 issues. Even the last one is 48 pages, right?
Yes, sir.
There we go.
And the final order cutoff is in 2 weeks, I think. It's the 16th. So if you want to ensure that you have a copy, make sure your store has it ordered by then. It'll be in stores on October 16th, which is the weekend of New York Comic Con. So I think Vamp, we'll have Vamp down there with us probably doing some stuff.
My brother's a big fan from the P3 podcast. Daniel Black. He was a former independent wrestler himself and a major cosplayer. He would definitely love that because, folks, you need this book in your life because some stories are too big for the ring, baby. Yeah. And with that, that's the big boss, the king of wrestling comics. You better support this awesome book from Massive Comics, man. Michael Kingston. Thank you again, my Crusaders. Everybody that's tuned in. I appreciate you guys. You know what to do. Right, subscribe to the channel, whether it's on Rumble, YouTube, X, whatever. Please show the love. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Hasta la próxima, mi gente. ¡Huepa! Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at Undercover. And also make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.